the reading. You know, every day I show up at school, and even though the classroom I oversee isn't like other classrooms, they do want to know who I have with me that day. There's a lady down in the office that I need to send an email to or call and say, today I have so-and-so with me. They need to know that student is present and accounted for. And it's, even though it's not a regular classroom, it's important that they know where each and every student is. If you've ever taught a class, we're dealing with young people's lives and we need to know where they are, right? Because if they're not there, something's going to happen. There's going to be a call that goes out to mom or dad and says, your child's not at school. Are they sick? Or are they skipping? Or what's going on? We need to know. But what we need to know most of all is where are they present? Are they present or are they not present? If you don't show up for work and you don't call, it presents a problem, doesn't it? Your boss wants to know, is Amy present? Where are they at? Why aren't they here? Why aren't they accounted for? Right? It's an accountability thing. You're expected at certain places at certain times. And being present is important. I look out here today. I can see who's present. I can see who's not. I can look out here just by looking at the pews and where people normally sit. I can pretty much tell who's here, who's not here. I don't know if they slept in or if they have some other thing going on. But I know who's here and I know who's not. Being present is kind of an important thing in our society, isn't it? Being present where we're supposed to be, the right time, at the right place. And what does that really mean, to be present? It means you care. You care enough to show up, right? Or you care that if I don't show up for school, then my parents are probably really going to get me. So, or if I don't show up for work, I may not have a job. But you cared about something to motivate you to be there, correct? Right? You showed up for church because you want to be here, I hope. But I don't know. I don't know your heart. But either way, you're present and you're stuck with me, so you might as well, not go to sleep during this particular period of time. But being present means that I care. That I care. Now, being present doesn't mean that you're all here. It means that you're physically present, right? You see, because I know from sitting in those pews myself, that some of you are physically here. Right about now, you're wondering about that pot roast that's in the slow cooker and how long I'm going to take, right? Or you're wondering about things you have to do in the game. What time is the kickoff? And what time does my team play? Or one of those things, you're checking out and you're starting to go other places, right? So and I see that in kids all the time. Maybe you've experienced it, right? You're talking to your kids and they got this stare on their face and you know they're not there, right? You ever have that? Talk to your kids and you know they're not in the room with you. Physically they are, but mentally they've checked out, they're somewhere else. Are you listening to me? That's finally how it brings them back from wherever they've been for the last 20 minutes and they roll their eyes to the back of their head. Yes, I'm here. That's how we know they're present, right? Being present is kind of important. And having someone's not only being there physically, but being there mentally is important. It's important in our relationships. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Both our relationships with people and our relationship with God. Being present is a very important part of what and who we are. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody who's not present. Right? I mean, don't get me wrong, I know there are some long-distance relationships where that's the preferred way. Where, we only see each other every 6 months, and that's how you like it. I'm not talking about that. But I'm talking about if we're in the same room, and I'm talking to you, or I'm with you, I want to know that I'm important enough that mentally you're here with me. Right? That you're not off somewhere, I'm talking to you, and you're like, what? Yeah. You ever been there? Don't raise your hands. It's going to start some fights later on. But I know you have. And because it's easy to do, to be somewhere and not be there. But we need to be there. It says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and soul. That means you need to be there. When you're here to worship, you don't need to be somewhere else. You don't need to be thinking about the crock pot. You need to be here. That's what you're here for. That's about your relationship with God. Same thing when you're in a relationship with a person, you need to be there for them. It's important. It says, what that says to them is it's an aspect of love. And what it says to them is that you're important enough to me that I'm here for you. I'm here to listen to you. If you want to tell me about your problem and not have me solve it, I'll sit right here. If you want to just spend time watching TV, I'm in. If you want to go for a walk in the park, I'm with you. No matter what you're doing together, I'm in. I'm in. I care about you that much. If you just want to sit here at the dinner table and have a conversation, I'm in. You're important to me. If you want to get up and go do laundry, paint the front porch, you're on your own. But beyond that, and I'm just kidding, but beyond that, it's important to let people know that you're there for them. Correct?
Absolutely.
It's important that people know that you care enough to be there. Not just physically in the room, but mentally. Your spouses need that. Your friends need that. Your children need that. They need to know you care enough to give them your undivided attention. As hard as that may be at times. That when they say something, that you're actually listening to what they say. You're actually hearing their pain. Or their joy. Or whatever it is they want to share with you. That's the art of being present. And it means a lot to folks. You know, this past weekend, I went and said goodbye to a friend of mine. And there were so many people at this funeral that it was such a comfort to see the turnout for my friend. And part of the comfort came in that I knew some of the people who were in the room, because I've known Mike since college. And I knew some of the people in the room knew Mike, but didn't know Mike. And they weren't there so much for Mike as they were for other people. They were there to comfort other people. They were there to say, hey, if you need to cry, I'm here. If you need a hug, I'm here. If you need somebody just to talk to, I'm here. If you need to cry and ruin my brand new shirt, that's okay, do it. I don't care if your mascara runs there, it doesn't matter. Go ahead, let it run. And what they were saying was that you're so important to me that I'm here, that I'm present. What a lost art that is in our society. But what a special gift that is to give someone. The gift of being present. We underestimate that. Because sometimes it's hard to be present, isn't it? Sometimes, in sad times, it's just awkward. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. Have you ever been there? I don't know what good me being there would be. I don't know what to tell them. I don't know what to say. I don't have the right words. And so we just stay away. But in staying away, we're doing harm. Because, see, it's easy to go to parties with people and cookouts and out to dinner and have good times, but they need you during the bad times too. They need you during those times when they need someone's shoulder to cry on. Or they just need you to sit in the room with you. You know, I've been in a lot of sad rooms in my lifetime. That's part of this job. And I can tell you this. People, unless you say something just so profound, will never remember a word you say to them during those times. But they will remember you were there. They will remember your presence. They will remember your support. And it means something to them. Just like it would mean something to you. You see, we're not just there for the good times, we're there for the bad times too. Because we are a direct reflection of the love that our God gives to us. You see, our God doesn't just show up in the good times, or He's not a 911 call in the bad times. He's there all the time. He's an all-present God. He's there on those good days, and He's there on those bad days. He's there on those days when the road seems so rocky, you don't know if you're going to get through it. When it's filled with potholes, or when the road's all one way and it's all uphill. He's there. He's there. Hebrews 13 tells us, I'll never leave you, nor forsake you. It's a promise. He's given this to us. He's not leaving us. You can't kick Him out. He loves you too much. He's there with you. And that's how we're supposed to be with people. You see? We're supposed to be there when that road gets rocky, when it gets rough, when there seems to be nothing but despair. That's what we're here. That's what you're there for. Say, well, I didn't sign up for that job. Doesn't sound like something I want to do. Yeah, you did. Yes, you did. We're supposed to be a reflection of Christ's love. It was one of His commandments. To love your neighbor as yourself, right? You signed up. The question is, do you step up? Or do you step away? Too often times we step away because it's just too hard. It's just too awkward. It's just not the easy thing to do. Jesus never promised you an easy time. But He did promise you He'd never leave you. Right? He did promise He'd never forsake you. He promised He'd always be with you. And He is. And some days you feel His presence more than others. Sometimes it's easier to feel His presence. But He's always there. And sometimes He sends people. People like you and like me. Into a room. To help other people. To be present. To do the simplest of things. To act in the simplest of ways. To show and reflect God's love for them. You see, sometimes you're that messenger. So I can sign up for that job either. It doesn't matter. You are. And you need to be there to be God's reflection of His love. To show people. And it's so easy to do, and we just need to do it in our daily walk. It just needs to be part of who we are. Heart, mind, and soul. All of us. All in. Every day. Because that's the kind of relationship God has with us. That's the kind of relationship that God wants with us. An all-in relationship every day. Not sometimes, not on Sunday for an hour, or 2 hours, or 3 hours. Putting a check in the offering plate doesn't cover it. I mean, that's all good stuff. But He wants more than that. He wants more than that. That's a part-time relationship. He wants a full-time relationship. And don't you deserve a full-time relationship? Whether it be with a spouse or with a child. You don't want a part-time. You don't want a child that just shows up and says, I need $1 for a candy bar. If your child treated you that way and you never saw them again, they never said thank you. They just kind of, I need $1 for a candy bar. And that's all you ever saw. How would you feel? Like a bank machine is how you would feel, I'm going to tell you right now. But and we're not bank machines. We're people with feelings, and we need to know that we're loved. But we need to love others. And we need to reflect that love. And we need to be that person that God would have us to be. I read a poem, and I want to share it with you real quick. The other day, it's called I Saw Jesus. I Saw Jesus. Listen to the words of it. It said, he was wearing blue jeans and an old shirt. He was up at that building we call our church. He was all alone and working hard, and for a minute, he looked a little like one of the people who regularly attend our church. But it was Jesus. I could tell. He was smiling. I saw Jesus last Sunday. He was teaching my Bible class. He didn't talk real loud or use long words, but I could tell he believed what he said. For just a minute, he looked a lot like my Sunday school teacher. But it was Jesus. I could tell by his loving voice. I saw Jesus yesterday. He was at the hospital visiting a friend who was sick. They prayed together quietly. For just a minute, he looked like a guy I saw at worship gathering last week. But it was Jesus. I could tell by the tears in his eyes. I saw Jesus last night. He was sitting on the street looking for someone to help him. For a minute, he looked just like another homeless person. But it was Jesus. I could tell by the look of sincere suffering in his eyes. I saw Jesus this morning. He was cutting grass in the community where I live. He was smiling, waving to everyone who was driving down our street. He made me feel special, even if it was only for a moment. For a minute I thought it was just another person we paid to keep our community clean. But it was Jesus. No one else has that much joy. I see Jesus everywhere, taking food to the sick, welcoming others to his home, to his home, being friendly to someone who needs love. And for just a moment, I think he's someone I know. But it's always Jesus. I can tell by the way he serves. You know, you may be the only Jesus someone sees today. By your actions and how we treat each other. How we treat each other in this room. How we treat others when we walk through those doors and we go out. Do we treat them with love? Do we treat them with respect? Do we go to serve or to be served? It's all a matter of attitude. It's all a matter of the prism in which you look at life. What's yours about? You see, God calls us to be his reflection, to be his light into a dark world, to be that love that no one else can offer but us. That's what he calls us to do. You know, Jesus is everywhere. And he's reflected everywhere by people like me and like you. There was a story shared by a professor. He had agreed to speak at a military base, and he had was being picked up by a soldier at the airport. The soldier's name was Ralph. And Ralph picked him up, and as they were walking through the airport, and they were going to the luggage, to pick up the luggage, Ralph kept disappearing. And one time Ralph disappeared. He went and helped a lady whose luggage had opened up and all her stuff had spilled out. And Ralph helped her put it back together. And another time Ralph disappeared. He went and picked up a couple of twins who were struggling to see Santa Claus, who had just come into the building over all the people who had gathered around. He picked them up so they could see. And another time he disappeared, somebody was lost, and he helped them find their way to where they needed to be. And the professor said, "Where did you learn to do that?" And he said, "Do what?" He said, "To be kind and compassionate to people." He said, "Well, I guess I learned it in the war." He said, "In the war?" He said, "Yeah, in the war." He said, "I was in Vietnam." He said, "And I was a minesweeper. Our job was to remove the mines from the fields from the soldiers." He said, "In my platoon," he said, "I saw a lot of my friends just blown to bits right in front of my eyes when things didn't go the way they were supposed to go." He said, "And I learned through that to live life from step to step. From the time I picked up my foot to the time I put it down, to experience the world at its fullest, because nothing else was ever promised to me. He says, so ever since then, I've tried to make the most out of every step, to help people, and to live life to its fullest. And isn't that the truth? None of us is promised that next step. There's no guarantee you'll ever get out of that pew. There's no guarantee I'll finish this sermon. Although you're hoping that it will come to an end soon, I know. But there are no guarantees. There's no time like the present to be kind to someone else. There's no time like the present to be that kind of friend. There's no time like the present to get your relationship with God right. To be all in. Heart, mind, and soul. To be ever present. Ever present. When you go to prayer, are you there? Are you focused with your mind on the busy day ahead? Are you truly spending time with God? When you're sitting with your spouse, are you there? Are you wondering how to get the remote control out of your hand? Are you there? When your friends are sick, are they down? Or they get bad news? Are they lose someone? Are you there? Are you present? Or is it just too awkward? Too hard? The challenge is to be there. The challenge is to be that kind of friend. You know, I heard a song yesterday that said, God has put millions and millions of doors in the world to shine His light through. And one of them is yours. I said, wow, that is like amazing insight. I've been put here to let God's light shine through me. You've been here, put here, to let God's light shine through you. What a beautiful sentiment. What a beautiful thought. Is the door open? Or is it closed? Open your door. Live each moment step by step. Never miss an opportunity to be a friend. Never miss an opportunity to be present. Never miss an opportunity to let God's love shine through your door. There's no time like the present to be present. And all God's people said. Amen. Our hymn of response this morning